New Jersey was the third state to join the Union at the very end of 1787. But what led up to that point? Let's go all the way back. What's the history of the colony of New Jersey? Welcome to Tingledom. Yeah, so I did end up going ahead with that idea that we had at the 7 days of maps. Yeah, I'm really excited to do it. It's going to only be for just a select few. I'm running ragged doing these sessions, so I'll have to keep it just a very select few, but I would love to do it with you. Yeah, so what I'm going to be doing is really focusing on the history of cartography, basically from the 1500s on, and we'll be focusing in on North America, that being my number one specialty. Yeah, so each day will be a different time period going up through time, finishing off with the 2000s, get a little bit of Google Maps and that sort of thing. Yeah, so just check at the desk. They'll be able to book you in and tell you what you need to do to get into one of those sessions. And as I said, they'll know that I sent you because nobody else knows about them, so keep it on the DL. Anyway, should get into New Jersey, shouldn't we? So by the end of today, we will come over how we have arrived at the borders, what we see in New Jersey today. So we'll want to begin, as we always do, looking at the original owners of this area. And so we're looking at New Jersey, and so this is completely in the Lenape area. And been there for thousands of years, and had quite a significant impact in that area. Now the story, as I mentioned last month, is quite similar between Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey, because they are all in that same area. New York is rather similar as well, where you have these beginnings with the Dutch and the Swedish and then the Dutch, and then finally get ousted in 1664 with the Duke of York, and England take over in that area. So we'll just run through a couple of these. We've seen them before. This is Nyasverige, which is New Sweden. So this side of the Delaware River is where we see present-day New Jersey. So Fort Nassau, that sort of area. Not too much on this side, but it is still worth mentioning because there were early European settlements there. And we get this map, again, from Johan Bingenboom's. Makes gorgeous maps, does he not? And so we looked at this for the Delaware side, Swanendale, this side is Delaware. But then on this side, this would be New Jersey, and it only loosely approximates what New Jersey looks like, does it? So quite a lot that wasn't quite understood about that yet. And then we have one other Bingenboom's map, just a small little corner of the north part of New Jersey, which we see right around here. And this gets into the border between New Jersey and New York. So you can see Staten Island here. And then on the other part of the North River or Hudson River, this would be New Jersey, and this would be New York. So we get a little bit of it here, but obviously not a significant amount. So here again, we find a map that you may recognize that we looked at last time when we were looking at Pennsylvania. But we also have New York. This is New Nederland. But I just like it because we get a really good view of New Jersey. You can see that it's quite apparent. The silhouette is starting to take shape. And this does come from the 1670s. And so while it doesn't have a large name like New Nederland or New York or Pennsylvania, just right here, you can see New Jersey. And this comes from John Ogilvy. I thought we've had a really whirlwind tour of some of the early mapping of this area. Let's talk about the actual declaration. As I mentioned, it's 1664. And so there were claims of Maryland, Virginia, New York. Everyone had their own ideas. But basically, before anyone had even arrived to start administering the new colonies that were under British control, Richard Nicolls had sent. Before he even landed in the New World, the Duke of York had gifted away New Jersey to two people. So, a bit unique in that it was given to two people. So it was given to Sir George Carteret and John Berkeley. And I'll just read to you the pronouncement of it. So it was going to be all land between the Delaware and Hudson rivers and south of a straight line from the intersection of where the Delaware River intersects 41 degrees north and where 40 degrees north crosses the Hudson. So because we're just right at the beginning of the naming, it's time to figure out where does the name come from. So it is paying homage to Jersey Island, which is one of the Channel Islands in the British Isles. And the name Jersey actually originates from Old Norse. So the sea would mean island, Jersey, something like that. And the Y means, or the I on the end means isle. And then the Jers means spears. So kind of Spears Island, Jersey. So we get the new Spears Island. So that's what New Jersey. It's also been called, so in the old days, people think that New Jersey might correspond to Caesarea. And so you will also see on maps sometimes, but one of the more popular early histories of New Jersey is called A History of Nova Caesarea. So you do see that name as well. So these two are gifted this area, and they are become the proprietors. So kind of got two proprietors. In 1673, the Dutch come and want to take back over the lands. They are successful, but then they're ousted again by 1674. But in the meantime, Berkeley sold his portion of New Jersey to two more people, Fenwick and Billings, who were both Quakers. If you remember last month, I told you that a certain William Penn helped sort out a dispute between, yes, you remember. So it was between them. But what ended up happening was that Carteret and then the two Quakers weren't seeing eye to eye necessarily. And so they split the lands between them. And then we had East New Jersey and West New Jersey. So we come back to our Nova Tabula Geographica by Nicholas Fisher. And here we can see, if we look at New Jersey, you can actually see that it's divided between West New Jersey and East New Jersey. And you'll see that actually for the next few maps that we have to look at. Now, a big trait of New Jersey, so part of how it was colonized was because it was between these two rivers. People would come up the two rivers and then kind of meet towards the center, and then they started infilling down towards the south. But the south never got, it took a long time for it to get really fully colonized, because it was considered the Pine Barrens down south. So a lot of the early colonies up more this direction, and down here is considered the Pine Barrens. But while we have a distinct line here, it did take a bit of time for the division between East New Jersey and West New Jersey to be settled. In 1686, we then see a reunion of these two, but also basically New Jersey, New York, a number of them all get drawn up into New England. But that didn't last very long. By 1687, they'd been split again into two separate colonies. We had West and East New Jersey. And then in 1688, they finally agreed on where this line should be. But interestingly, then in 1702, they were brought together. The proprietors decided that it had been a bit too crazy having all the different proprietors. There was even, so Fenwick and Billinge, they had disputes among themselves as well, and then they had disputes with Carteret, and it wasn't really working for anyone. And so they basically gave it back to the crown. It became a royal colony under Queen Anne in 1702. But maps such as this showing New England, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania by Herman Mole, you can see that the legacy, we can see West Jersey, East New Jersey. There's that division that's there, even though there were one colony at a time. It still made sense to represent that division. And so it was a bit of an interesting period for New Jersey. They had two capitals, and so business for the colony would go back and forth between the two previous capitals. Can you see them? So we've got Burlington here, and then Perth Amboy over here. And so business of the colony for the legislature and the government would basically go back and forth between the two former capitals. Now, the New Jersey government, even as a royal colony, they had an assembly. So you see this a lot with Pennsylvania, they had an assembly as well where people would vote, and New Jersey did too, where they could elect their representatives and that sort of thing. Now, the assembly also then had a royal governor. The colony had a royal governor. And the assembly, however, held the purse strings. So if they didn't like what his royal governor was doing, they wouldn't pay him. So more than edicts in regards to the colony in order to make sure he was going to get his paycheck. So that was a way that New Jersey made sure that they held the power and weren't just being subject to the king. So in 1773, King George, he was helping to resolve the border dispute between New Jersey and New York and where that border should lie. And he approved a point called they had a few years earlier discussed a point called Station Point, because the original edict, if you remember, which we were talking about, the 40 degrees north on the Delaware and 41 degrees north on the Delaware, 40 degrees north on the Hudson. The point on the Hudson, on the Delaware, doesn't exist. So there's no actual intersection there. So that was a problem. And so they resolved that with this Station Point. New York and New Jersey had chosen Station Point. It didn't quite end up being there. It was a couple miles off, but basically that's how that point got resolved. So then we get to the late 1700s, and of course the American Revolution. Now the most interesting story as far as New Jersey goes in the American Revolution, leading up to it, has to do with the royal governor, William Franklin. So in 1775, so right on the heels of the beginning of the Revolution. And William Franklin was not in favor of independence. And so at the end of 1775, he got up in front of the council assembly and was giving a speech about how if independence was sought, then they would bring down the full might of the British military upon them. And it wasn't very well received, but people ignored it for the most part at that point. And then, so there had been the emergence of almost this alternative form of government called the Provincial Congress. And it was never an official part of government, but had a huge influence on the assembly because a lot of people were in both. And so the Provincial Congress basically persuaded the assembly to send a petition to the king. Well, William Franklin didn't like the idea of the petition. It was, there were lots of problems with, Stamp Act and the Quartering Act and all the stories about the Revolution and everything that led up. It was the same in New Jersey, the things that were bothering people. So they wanted to send a petition to the king. Well, William Franklin didn't think this was a good idea. And so he wanted to try and hold a council to persuade everyone to come around to his side. Well, the council then decided that they didn't like what he was doing. And they put a warrant out for his arrest, and then he was put in house arrest in Connecticut. So that was the end of Sir William Franklin. Not sir, but that was the end of William Franklin, the royal governor. Then on June 21st, 1776, the Congress voted 54-3 to send a delegation to Philadelphia that they wanted to be a part of the revolution. And then it was actually, as it was with Delaware, the last borders to be settled. We had in 1834, New York and New Jersey settled their overland, over water borders. And then between Delaware and New Jersey was 1934. So, as I said, when we mention Delaware, you can go and dip your toes into Delaware on the beaches of New Jersey. This area. Pretty funny. And then on the 18th of December, 1787, New Jersey voted in favor of the Constitution, ratified it, and became the third